Joining me on the program this morning from Melbourne, Liberal MP Kelly O'Dwyer, and in Adelaide, Labor MP Nick Champion. Good morning to you both. Nick, this email from the restaurant owner who held the function for Mal Brough on the 28th of March, it's pretty clear. He says it was a mock menu, an inside joke for him and his son. It was meant to be lighthearted. It was never distributed. That does seem to validate, does it not, the position from Mr Brough and Mr Hockey that they never saw the crude descriptions of the PM.
Well, I guess we have to take the restaurateur at his word. I think the more concerning issue is the broader environment and some of the intemperate language that's been used. That's the thing that concerns me. I mean, I was on Lateline the other night, and there was some really intemperate language used, and we've seen it in the past in rallies and the like with ditch the witch and this sort of language. And I just think there is a sense at which civility is being removed from the public debate. Now, we're all guilty of it at some time. I don't want to be a Jeremiah about all this, but I think just, everybody who's involved in politics or interested in politics just needs to be a bit careful about moderating their language and knowing what's appropriate and what's not.
Do you believe that the email, Kelly O'Dwyer, from the restaurant owner does vindicate the position taken by Mr Hockey and Mr Brough yesterday when they said that they don't remember seeing it, that quite simply that this was news to them?
Well, it clearly lays out the facts of this situation, and I know that the Prime Minister and her female ministers are wanting to make a very big issue about this, but it's frankly been condemned by Tony Abbott, this menu. It's been condemned by Mal Brough. It's been condemned by the LNP in Queensland. No one's saying that this was a smart or sensible thing to write and put on a menu. Far from it. Everyone's condemned it. But I think it's a bit rich to be given a lecture on public life by Julia Gillard and the Labor Party. I mean, let's not forget that at the time that she delivered her famous misogyny speech, which was a political attack on the leader of the opposition, she of course was defending Peter Slipper and his incredibly offensive and vulgar comments about women. Let's not forget that she had a number of very senior ministers present at a union fundraising dinner where the leader of the opposition's chief of staff was denigrated and some remarks were made about her, and she didn't call for those senior ministers, which included people like the Treasurer, Wayne Swan. She didn't ask for their resignations then. Let's not forget that the Prime Minister herself had a staff member who was involved in creating the race riot on Australia Day in 2012. So I think it's a little hard to be lectured by the Prime Minister about standards in public life.
Let's play you a little bit now. I want to play you a little of some comments made last night by the Deputy Opposition Leader in the Senate, Senator Brandis, in which he was defending his former ministerial colleague in the Howard government, Mal Brough, and also a little more of the Finance Minister, Penny Wong, on the nature of the document, this menu that has been at the centre of this debate over the last 24 hours or so.
I spoke to Mal about it today. He knew nothing about it. He never saw it. It was not a Liberal Party or an LNP function. It was something put on by a private individual who wanted to raise money for campaign funds for a change of government.
Look, whatever the genesis of it, however it came to be written, I have to say it's pretty extraordinary in today's Australia. You have something that offensive and that vulgar written about a woman and written about a person holding the office of the Prime Minister. I mean, this wouldn't be acceptable if it was written about anybody. I ask you to think about how you'd feel, if that was written about your daughter.
That was Penny Wong this morning on the 7 Network Sunrise program. Nick Champion, the emergence of this menu yesterday followed, of course, the Prime Minister's speech to the Women for Gillard event in which she reignited the gender debate. She's since rebuked a couple of your colleagues, Ed Husic and Stephen Jones, when they expressed doubts over the political wisdom of having a political debate about abortion. Where did that come from? Why bring it up now? Doesn't it look like opportunism 3 months out from an election with the Prime Minister just trying to find something to resonate with the electorate?
Well, look, I'm not here to, I guess, comment on the Prime Minister's strategy necessarily, or Ed or Steve's commentary about it. I guess abortion is a sensitive issue, and it means it has a different reaction with different people. It's not the I've got to say, it's not the issue that excites my passions. I'm more concerned about jobs in my electorate, schools in my electorate. That's, healthcare in my electorate. That's what most people come to see me about. The occasional person comes to see me about abortion. It is an issue of public policy which we need to be careful about and mindful of. And it is always at the fringes of public debate. But I think, broadly speaking, we have a bipartisan consensus that it should be safe, legal and rare, and that's for good reasons. And I think, broadly speaking, we've had both party leaders comment on it at one time or another. Like I said, I think that's okay, but I think we should at some point return to the debate about jobs and education. It was great to see the Prime Minister in Western Australia yesterday, trying to get Gonski up, which I met with Catholic school principals in my electorate yesterday. I can tell you they're very keen to get Gonski up as a national program, and they're keen to see it start even earlier than what we've got programmed.
Kelly O'Dwyer, let's go to you on this issue of abortion. It is a sensitive issue and debate. Julia Gillard yesterday made reference to the RU486 discussion and how a number of Liberals rose up against the then Health Minister Tony Abbott and positions he was taking. Well, he wanted to keep control of the decision making on whether the drug would be listed. There was a vote subsequently which gave it to the Therapeutic Goods Administration, but the point is that she was saying that Liberals had to take Tony Abbott on over this issue. What's your sense of where his position is on it? Has it evolved? Has it changed?
Well, the Prime Minister has completely and utterly manufactured this whole issue. I think it's disgusting that she is trying to use the issue of abortion as a political weapon and a political tool. I really do. I think it is an absolute new low for this Prime Minister, and I think you've just heard now from Nick that he and a number of his other colleagues distance themselves from this really dirty tactic that the Prime Minister is trying to employ here. It is the politics of fear and smear, and it certainly should not be condoned by anybody, which is why, of course, at least 3 of her colleagues have publicly come out to put distance between themselves and the comments that she's made. There is no question. Abortion, if the Prime Minister has actually looked at this issue, this is within the power of the states. This issue is not an issue that the Coalition is going to make any changes on. More to the point, we can't make any changes. It's a state issue. So the Prime Minister is trying to use this to generate distraction from her own record as Prime Minister. She certainly doesn't want to be talking about her record as Prime Minister, because the economy right now is not in a good place, despite what Wayne Swan says. We have predictions by some economists that we are headed towards a recession. We have business confidence at an all-time low. Nick's right to say people are concerned about their jobs. They are concerned about their jobs. But not only are they concerned about their jobs, they're also concerned about the sheer amount of debt that this government has taken on. That contributes to the very low business confidence we have right now.
Kelly, the Prime Minister was trying to tap into, obviously, concerns about Tony Abbott. And I wouldn't mind your view on this, on that specific issue, though. What have his views evolved? Have they changed on matters like this? Do you think that he has placated the female vote enough on matters like this?
Well, Tony has expressed his view, and his words were the same as the words that Nick Champion just used there: safe, legal and rare. He is the father of 3 daughters, the brother of 3 sisters. This is obviously a very personal decision that people have to make if it is relevant to them in their lives. We're not going to change abortion laws. It is completely false and malicious for the Prime Minister to suggest that we will.
Let's play now. I want to play you a little bit of the Prime Minister last night in a conversation. It was a fundraiser in Fremantle for the local MP, Melissa Park, with the comedian Ben Elton, and she was giving a bit of insight into her dig at men in blue ties earlier in the week. Let's take a look.
I can explain the blue ties thing, and I don't want people who have got a blue tie in their wardrobe to be anxious about it. But you may have noticed, and it has been the subject of public commentary, that between the focus groups and the political handlers, they've decided that the best way of presenting Mr Abbott is day after day after day to have him in a white shirt and a blue tie. So not any variety in the ties, not any variety in the shirts, a white shirt and a blue tie. So when I cracked a joke about blue ties, this was the reference.
Fair enough.
Nick, I haven't noticed what tie you're wearing this morning, but in terms of
silver, mate, silver. No,
okay,
silver,
lovely.
silver and green, silver and green.
It's looking at $1 million. But with Julia Gillard, I want to ask you about this suggestion that the female or the women's voices will be banished from senior positions in government if the coalition wins. That's an overstretch, isn't it? Julie Bishop, I spoke to her yesterday. She was on the program. She's the Deputy Liberal leader.
Well, look, I guess the Prime Minister was, I think, making a reference to sort of the identikit nature of male political attire. And look, the blue tie does get a fair old workout in that. And you would have noticed there was a number of government ministers and I suspect a number of opposition frontbenchers all wearing blue ties. It's a pretty fashionable colour. So at the very least, it's forced us to bring some of the lesser used ties to the front of the rotation. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think women have always had a bit of a natural advantage at being more attractive and more appealing, and certainly, that's in life as in politics. So, the Prime Minister, I think, was trying to make actually a fairly reasonable point about the identikit nature of politics, and also of the, if you like, the airbrushing and the sort of preening of Mr Abbott as, wrapping him up in cotton wool, which I think is undoubtedly happening. He's moderated a whole lot of his language, and despite what Kelly says, one of the first people to bring up abortion in the modern era in the federal parliament was Tony Abbott himself. He made speeches in the national parliament about it. So, I think it's a reasonable point to make, and I think the Prime Minister made it in a light-hearted way with Mr Elton as well.
And the blue tie, it's certainly it's an epidemic in Canberra, Kelly.
Well, look, I find it really curious that the Prime Minister complains on the one hand that she's given all sorts of unwanted fashion advice and that people, make assessments and judgments about her because of what it is that she's wearing, and then she's freely giving out fashion advice to her male colleagues and to Tony Abbott. I mean, it's quite a strange thing to be doing, and I frankly, I think it's interesting that Nick is trying to find a way of justifying the statements that she's made. But look, clearly what the Prime Minister was attempting to do was to try and create an issue around the fact that only women can represent the concerns of women. This, of course, is completely false. Eva Cox, who is a very well-known feminist, today had a very good piece in the paper where she said, this is simply not the case. Women don't just represent the interests of women, both men and women do that. We should be representing the interests of all Australians, not one gender against another gender. And the idea that the Prime Minister is trying to make this about gender, I think is quite strange. Clearly she's under a lot of pressure. She's, got this siege mentality right at the moment, and it reflects, I think, very poorly on her judgment. But, she thinks that somehow there's an identikit type of parliamentarian or politician on the Liberal side. Let me say this, of all of her cabinet colleagues and senior front bench, I think all bar two have been union officials. Does that mean that they are just representing union concerns? I mean, we've got a breadth and depth of experience on our side of the parliament, and I think that speaks volumes for us being able to represent a broad set of concerns of the Australian people, much more reflective of the Australian population.
Okay, Nick, I believe you want to make a quick reply. I've got to get to a break, so make it quick.
Well, I just want to make the point that Kelly worked for a big bank. You know, is she suggesting that all she represents is big banks? Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's shock horror about unions as well. Shock horror about unions. I mean, you
all right, on that note,
you know, you've got to be reasonable, Kelly.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Save on car insurance with
Coles Little Red Quote. If you're 30 or over, you're guaranteed to save when you switch your comprehensive car insurance to Coles Car Insurance. All backed by 90 years of Wesfarmers insurance experience.
And so I said,
Coles Little Quote.
it's a great little quote.
It's my little quote.
Save on car insurance with Coles Little Red Quote.
Call or visit Coles Insurance today and save with
Coles Little Red Quote.
Officeworks works for your business. It's easy to shop in store with our extended trading hours or online 24/7 through your personalised business portal, or speak to your own account manager. Visit Officeworks Business online and find out how Officeworks works for you.
Right now at Target, get 40% off a huge range of women's, men's and kids' winter clothing, sleepwear, footwear and accessories. Exclusions apply. See in store. Hurry! 4-day clearance sale ends Sunday. On now at Target.
Wake up, you sleepyhead. Get up, get out of bed. Cheer up, the sun is red. Live, love, laugh and be happy.
You don't have to stop at toast when you start with Vegemite.
The great day of reckoning is upon us. We need to cure ourselves of slavery. This amendment is that cure. Slavery, sir, it's done.
Lincoln on Blu-ray and DVD now. The joy of traveling the world is now on sale for 1 week only. For not to be missed deals on worldwide flights, be sure to book before midnight Saturday at Webjet.
Business class flights that won't blow the budget? Fly Scoot Biz to Singapore and beyond in premium comfort at economy prices. All the usual extras without the extra digits. Scoot Biz, it's business class for the savvy suit. Fly Scoot, save loot.
Have you been ignoring your super? Well, if so, you could have multiple super accounts and unnecessary fees could be eating into your balance. That's your hard-earned money. BT's free Super Checkup makes it easy to get on top of it right now. It takes just 2 minutes online and it could make a huge difference to your future. The BT Super Checkup runs 4 important checks. It shows you how much you could need for a comfortable future and how your super balance could compare. You'll find out if you could be saving money on unnecessary fees and what a difference a top-up could make. Plus, it shows you ways to get your super working harder. And best of all, it's free. It takes just 2 minutes. Get your free BT Super Checkup right now at btsupercheckup.com.au. Call a BT specialist on 1300 887758 or visit one of these branches. Do it now. It could make a huge difference to your future. Prepare for the best. BT.
This is AM Agenda. Thanks for your company this morning. The front page of the West Australian newspaper this morning has internal polling which shows that Labor's at risk of losing all of its 3 seats in that state. The Prime Minister was in Fremantle last night at a conversation, as I mentioned a bit earlier in the program, with Ben Elton. It was a fundraiser, and she says that she's energised by the battle despite how difficult things are at the moment.
When you're in a big fight, there's a moment where you've got to decide, are you daunted by it or are you energised by it? I'm energised by it. I want my political party to be energised by it, and I want us to get out and have a red hot go.
Well, there's no... The Prime Minister's energised by it. Kevin Rudd's energised at the moment as well. Yesterday he was out at Hurstville in the seat of Barton and got quite a reaction. Still very popular. He's going to be out in McMahon tomorrow, the seat around the Fairfield area in Sydney, with the local member Chris Bowen. Nick Champion, as we look at the pictures of Kevin Rudd yesterday, he still gets quite a crowd. He does remain the popular alternative.
Look, he's certainly popular. He's certainly popular. You know, that's because he's a former Prime Minister. Bob Hawke gets a similar reaction. Keating gets a similar reaction. I'm sure Prime Minister Howard and Malcolm Fraser get the same reaction. So, former Prime Ministers always have a bit of show about them.
Bill
and,
Shorten,
I
apparently
guess...
Bill Shorten has been talking to colleagues the last couple of days. According to Simon Benson's report in the Daily Telegraph, he's hit the phones over the past few days to test the waters on Julia Gillard's leadership. This despite yesterday, Mr Shorten, when asked, will Julia Gillard lead Labor to the election, he said, yes, I believe so.
Well, I'd take Bill at his public word. He hasn't called me, so you know, I can assure you, from at least from a personal standpoint, he hasn't been calling around.
Well, Julia Gillard.
I mean, you know, look, Bill's reiterated his position a number of times in public, and you know, it's there for all to see.
Julia Gillard's got some heavy power reinforcements today with the Terminator is in Perth. Let's take a listen. He's there on a motivational speaking tour. I want to play you a little of it.
The day is 24 hours. You sleep 6 hours, then you have 18 hours left. Now, I know there's some of you out there saying to themselves, I sleep 8 hours. Well, just sleep faster, okay? So make it very simple, because you can do it with 6 hours.
The former California governor there. On a serious note, Kelly, he's written a joint opinion piece with the Prime Minister saying that, you know, stressing the need for action on climate change. In California, where he was governor, they've got an emissions trading scheme. So, yeah, on that point, they're on the same page, and she'll be meeting with him, incidentally, later today.
Well, the Prime Minister loves meeting celebrities, and again, it will be talking about things that don't relate to her record and her agenda, I suppose. But look, I haven't read the piece. You know, when I talk to people in my electorate down in Cornang Road, Carnegie, about the carbon tax and the impact that it's had on their business, the fish and chip owner says to me it's actually increased the cost of him doing business. When I talk to the florist, she tells me it increases the cost of her doing business. I can't find anybody who actually supports the carbon tax in my area who actually says that this is a good idea, it's reducing emissions. We know, even according to the government's own modelling, that in fact the emissions are going up and up, and it's not having the impact that they said it would. So I think that Julia Gillard really just needs to listen to the Australian people on this, and she needs to stop having a tin ear.
Okay.
She needs to listen to the Australian people, and she needs to do what we say we will do, which is repeal the carbon tax.
On Arnie, just quickly, 20 seconds. He's certainly not the majority in the United States. It's only one state at this stage, isn't it?
Well, it's the biggest state. It's the most dynamic state from an innovation perspective, and where goes California goes not just America but the world. We will see carbon pricing in the world, and we've got it here in Australia. It's a good thing.
Nick Champion, Kelly O'Dwyer, thanks for that. We've got to go. That's all for AIM Agenda. The news is next.